Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the cinematographer on Astronauts.
And hi, I'm Andrew. I'm the director of Astronauts. Matt and I have known each other since birth. Our parents were friends and we grew up together as good mates in Sydney, Australia. And we made films together throughout high school, making, little short films on DV cameras together, which kind of sparked our interest in film. We both then went away and studied film separately, and then came together back in 2008 and started our production company called Mint. And since then, we've been making films together all the way up until Astronauts, which we have here at Fantasia this year. So Astronauts is a film about two astronauts about to take off on a critical mission to Mars. The world is ending and this is how we save the planet. But whilst on the launch pad, one of the astronauts turns to the other and says, I have no idea what I'm doing and I've completely fluked my way through this. And then the rest of the film is them grappling with the idea of taking off anyway and having someone completely incompetent at the wheel. We started off wanting to make a short film, and one of our good friends, Adam Dunn, who is in the film, we asked him to come and pitch some ideas to us. And he pitched 3 or 4 different ideas, and then none of them really landed. All great ideas, but weren't right. And then he was walking out the room and he said, well, I've got this other little thing that I've been working on. Aaron and I have a draft of this film, and he pitched as Astronauts. And we absolutely loved it from that first pitch, because the premise for comedy is so ripe. It's a fish out of water film, but it is a nice, simple film that just is full of comedic potential.
Yeah, I suppose I'll add to that. From a production standpoint, it was quite fishbowled, so we thought it was quite achievable. It was meant to be the film that we made quickly and easily in 2022, whilst we then worked on some bigger projects in the long term. It ended up not being as quick or as easy as we thought, but it was fantastic. We loved it. And I suppose we loved the idea of being able to create this world, particularly for me from a cinematography point of view, to create this kind of beautiful sci-fi world all within a cockpit. And that was a really exciting challenge, as was, I suppose, the challenge of telling this story of these two characters all just within one space within 10 minutes. So I suppose for me, I see the role of the DOP is to execute the director's vision. I am very fortunate that I work with Andrew so often, and we have this kind of shorthand, and we, a lot of our communication is unspoken a lot of the time. So all that to say, we understand each other really well. So it was great on this film because, as we're working together day by day on all sorts of other projects, we just throw ideas around, and that really helps the research process for something like Astronauts. We did a lot of research. Andrew would come to me and say, I think, films like Apollo 13, First Man, Interstellar, a bunch of other films would serve as great reference for this. We discussed the style and tone. We, from the outset, didn't want it to feel too modern and, like Star Trek-y. We wanted to give it a bit more of a, I suppose, like Apollo 13 kind of vibe, so a bit more of a 90s style, not quite retro, but a little bit vintage. So these are the kind of things we discussed. We discussed at length how we execute the film. So we investigated whether we do a lot of visual effects and just have basically the two guys sitting in a green screen room and build it all CGI. But we decided that would just, we felt, given our budget and resources, that would come across as inauthentic, and we wanted it to feel authentic and real, to help serve the story, to heighten the stakes. So we opted to then build a set. All of this fed into the eventual look of the film. Probably was quite, from the outset, we thought we'd shoot on anamorphic lenses to aid the sci-fi kind of vibe.
My intention with this was to create a film that looked and felt like a film we'd all seen before. So as Matt was saying, Apollo 13 or First Man, Space Cowboys, whatever it may be, we wanted the audience to feel as though they'd seen it before. And why I wanted that was so that we could kind of pull the rug out from underneath everyone's feet and show them a character that was completely out of their depths. With all these films, the astronauts are completely competent. Even if the space shuttle is imploding, they know what to do. Whereas our characters aren't that way. So I wanted to present a world and present a look through the costumes and through the set design that looked and felt familiar, and put the audience in a comfortable place so that we could then kind of mix the genre up from there. We knew it was all going to be in the one location, which is kind of what, from a production point of view, really attracted us to the story. And that brought with it its own set of challenges. Obviously, the film is 10 and a half minutes in one location and just the two guys chatting. And so what I was saying to Maddie, throughout the process was, I want to ensure that we're not boring the audience from a visual perspective. And so that meant having different angles that we could use further into the film. So there's a couple of shots that specifically aren't used early on in the film, but we give those new perspectives later on in the film, not only to kind of show how the perspectives of the characters have changed, but also to give some fresh visuals to our audience to ensure that they're still engaged and we're showing them something different. At the 8-minute mark, we give them a new shot. There's only the one shot looking out through the cockpit window, and we hold that off until quite late in the piece, when they're considering whether they do go, and to kind of create even greater stakes, we show the abyss beyond that they're about to enter into. I've been lucky enough to work with Adam Dunn before, on a couple of projects. So I've worked with him before. I hadn't worked with Aaron before, but he himself is an incredibly talented and accomplished actor. So I knew we were going to get some really great stuff. We were lucky enough to have some rehearsal time before the shoot. So I worked with the guys just on character. And as Matt was saying, we wanted to kind of shoot it in a way that we could do really long takes and allow these two characters to kind of interact in a really authentic way, whilst also still leaving room for improvisation. I find comedy is like a living, breathing thing to make. And so it's great to have a script, but I find that improvisation helps kind of bring that comedy alive. So when we were on set, it was a conscious thing for us to kind of try different things and give my actors the room to improvise. And that to me kind of helps keep that comedy fresh, and also gives me options in the edit too, where if something isn't quite working, we can try something else. So yeah, that's kind of how I worked with those guys. The mission control voice was something completely different, because obviously that got fed in post-production. Crew Boylan ended up voicing mission control, and she brought to it this great dryness, to it, which is so good, which was really fun to play with. Having her just deliver these really heartbreaking lines in a really dry way, I think really helped the comedy. I know I've always loved telling stories. I've always loved entertaining people. And I find getting to make films and then come and watch them at a festival like Fantasia, where the audiences are really passionate and very invested, is really cool. And you get real-time feedback on the work that you've made. Yeah, I love telling stories, have always loved telling stories, and creating worlds has been really something that I'm really passionate about. And yeah, getting to watch them with an audience is a real treat.
Yeah, I suppose for me, it's there's nothing quite like it. Like Andrew said, sitting in a theater and having a few hundred people laugh or gasp or react to what you've created. So that's a special feeling, and I suppose it's good because filmmaking is a great way to be able to even in a comedy like Astronauts, get people to think, get people to ask a question of themselves, or Astronauts is pretty light and pretty funny, but it has these themes of the world ending and climate change. You could take it in any sorts of directions. So it's nice to be able to get people to think and have conversations, and it's such a communal thing. And I think it's just a real like kind of privilege and honor to be able to get people to engage in that way.
This is probably bad to admit, but one of my first film memories was actually watching The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. And I would have been like 9 or 10 at the time, which in hindsight was probably too young to be watching The Shining. But I was so enthralled by that film that it has really stuck with me as like a film that has really shown me the power of the medium to kind of tell a story and engage and terrify, you know. And so yeah, The Shining's probably one for me.
I think there was no, for me, like I had lots of films I watched when I was younger, so no one film sticks out. I think the films that I think it was really like friendship and that communal filmmaking that got me into it. That's what attracted me. As I've matured and grown, I think the films probably that I love most are Christopher Nolan's films, because I love the blend of sci-fi and the way he thinks about time and space and existence and blends all that into these beautiful masterpieces. That's his work is like that for me. Probably Interstellar, which works well because it's a great inspiration for astronauts.